Dorinda Cox has been appointed as the new Greens First Nations spokesperson after Lidia Thorpe left the party. The Yamatji Noongar woman has been handed the job as the party does campaign for the yes vote in the upcoming Voice to Parliament referendum. Joining me live now is the Greens' new Indigenous spokesperson, Senator for WA, Dorinda Cox. Thanks so much for your time and congratulations. Can you just clarify exactly what is the Greens' position on the Voice now?
The Voice, the position of the Australian Greens is to support a yes campaign in the upcoming referendum.
Any more detail? Is there anything you're demanding as part of that yes vote, that there be more details from the Albanese government as to how it would work and the practical solutions?
Our approach to this will really be looking at more detail across the Truth and Treaty Makarrata Commission and the contribution that was made as part of the last October budget of $5.8 million, and we'll be looking to see that there are progress made in the other areas of the Uluru Statement from the Heart. We think this is critical in not just complementary to the Voice to Parliament, but also ensuring that truth-telling and treaty-making are progressed as part of the entirety of the Uluru Statement from the Heart.
Okay, so are you pursuing a treaty then?
We will be pursuing a treaty in the future, and we wanted to make sure that the Labor government are progressing all of those elements, and what we are seeing across the country and Queensland's recent announcement yesterday, that treaty making is something that both states and federal governments basically have an obligation to do with First Nations people in this country as the First Peoples, and we think it's really important that they actively engage in that now. I think it's what I'm calling a decade of change for First Nations rights in this country, and I want all levels of government to take that seriously and actually start mobilising their action and using their power to advance that.
Is there a risk, though, that pursuit of a treaty could actually damage the success of a voice?
No, it wouldn't. It means that that we are looking at this not just through a voice prism. It's important to have a voice, and the establishment of the voice will be complementary to treaty making. We need to ensure that sovereign to sovereign nations are able to sit down and negotiate with each other, but also with, as I said, all levels of government. And there's an important process that needs to be laid out in relation to that. It will be complementary to the Voice. I think any information and dialogue that we are having around this national issue that's of importance to all Australians and not just First Nations people, but for 230 years, we've been waiting for this conversation to happen. We have been waiting to be recognised in the Constitution. And as a person who comes from 5 generations of the stolen generation, my family in particular have a legacy of intergenerational trauma and things that need to be addressed, particularly by the government.
Lidia Thorpe, obviously no longer in the Greens. She's pursuing the Black Sovereign movement. She also spoke about the importance of treaties. How is it different? So how is that pursuit different now that Lidia Thorpe's not in the party?
Yeah, I obviously respect Lydia's decision to pursue the Black Sovereign movement in Australia, and I think it's an important conversation and one that isn't certainly not at loggerheads with our position of mobilising Truth and Treaty for the Makarrata Commission, but one that's complementary. And I think the work that Lidia will pursue in the future will work to complement our position. The Black Sovereignty movement is important as a legacy piece from our old people. We've been protesting in the streets. We have been talking and advising governments for many generations, and the Black Sovereignty movement should be at the heart of that. We continue to place that at the forefront of the work that we do.
It sounds like you agree with Lidia Thorpe on many things, Dorinda. What do you disagree with her on?
Oh, look, there are very few things that, the black women do disagree on. I think our outcomes and our mobilisation of where we want to be in just outcomes for our people are the same, and that's across party lines. that I think getting to that destination and the way that we get to that destination is perhaps different. We have different lived experiences, we represent different electorates, and we have our different ways of doing things. So I think that I take that into context about our ways of working, and particularly in the political systems, and elevating grassroots voices and the movement that we represent.
Okay. Was there not room for Lidia to stay in the party? Would you have preferred that she done so? She did so, because it sounds like that you are fully on board with what she's all about, perhaps just not the method.
Yes, I think Adam Bandt was very clear that Lidia was able to remain in the Australian Greens and continue to pursue the Black sovereignty movement. And, for me, this has been a very personal choice of hers. We have within our party rules the ability to be able to vote differently. So, I can't speak for Lidia, and I never would attempt to. But what I would say is that there was an opportunity for her to remain in the party and to continue to pursue that work.
But she opposed the Voice. How damaging was that, do you think?
Look, I think that everybody has their own diverse range of views in relation to what the Voice will do in relation to First Nations issues in this country. That even is included in First Nations communities. And as I said, different experiences, what people want to see as the outcomes, the practical application of what the Voice will do are really important issues that need to continue to have dialogue and debate. And I think shutting that down is not productive. And I think that as we continue to see information being relayed, particularly by the Labor government, in relation to what the model would look like, I personally would like to see that it's be an elected body, not a selected body by the government. And as we move more closer to the referendum, there's an opportunity for us to continue to work together in community. But I also think there's an important contribution that Australians can make as we head towards this unifying moment and making sure that the Voice is actually successful.
Just quickly, the Country Liberal Party is being urged by rank and file members in the Northern Territory to officially oppose the Voice. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think it's important to get out on the ground and listen to the constituents within your own electorates and the people that you represent across your portfolios. And that is the work that I will be doing in my electorate of Western Australia, but also now more broadly in the portfolio that I represent for First Nations people. But I also have other portfolios such as trade and tourism and science and the resources sector in mining. And it's an important conversation that we need to be having and putting it central to the importance of human rights in Australia and making sure that we are centring the voices of First Nations people in that. And our First Nations constituents in our electorates have an important voice that we need to listen to because they've been silenced for so many generations previously.
Yeah, certainly. A long way to go. Dorinda, thanks so much for your time.